All right, so the next thing you're going to do is think about some cross contour line. So cross contour line is this idea that you're defining the space in between your contour line shapes. So depending on what you like, you can use contour line. Well, you obviously should use a variety of line weight for your contour line, but to make your objects feel a little bit more like have a little bit more form or a little bit more three-dimensionality. Remember, you're working in a two-dimensional space here, but to try to make your shoes look less flat, you need to have some sort of a contour line, cross contour line work going on. So for this demo, I was going to kind of work on that a little bit. Everybody's a little bit different in what they like, but I like to do at least 50%, say, cross contour line in my drawings usually. So I like to add a little bit of that, usually using a 2B or a 4B pencil. Let's see, I don't know if I have a 4B. There it is. A 4B pencil. And you want to make sure that the pencil is really, really sharp. And you want to keep it sharp all the way through. So I'm going to be sharpening a lot. You can also put something underneath your hand if you've noticed that you're starting to smear your drawing in front of you. Depending on if you are right or left-handed, sometimes that happens more. So you just put that paper underneath underneath your hand. You see, I'm going to do that because I don't want to smear my drawing. So I have a piece of paper right here. So this is going to go underneath my hand because I'm right-handed and I tend to smear everything all over the place. If you're left-handed, you know this because you write with your hand and it goes over your writing, right? So I'm going to start actually on the left a little bit, and I'm going to decide, because this is a matching pair, that I am going to do some cross contour line work on both the straps, on the heel, and then probably on the front portion of this. Now you could decide that you want to do cross contour line all the way around, but I'm going to do it on about 50%. So you don't want to do any less than that, or it's still going to look like not very exciting. So I'm going to start over here on the heel. Now my heel here is actually, it looks like it's square, but it's a little bit curved. So I'm actually going to curve this line a little bit. Now I'm going to think about the space in between my contour line here, and I'm going to curve this line just a little bit to give it a little bit more sense that it's a little more round, even though it looks kind of square. And since I'm just working on it, I'm also going to do it on this side too. Especially on spaces like shoes, you want to think about, you'll want to curve certain areas a little bit. I don't know if there'll be a space like that, but see, that already makes that look like it's going back in space. Now if I wanted to make these look really curved, I could also add a little bit more to the back of this shoe. And you don't have to make it really methodical, but you can if you want. So people are really different in how they do cross contour line. Some drawings that I make are really methodical, like this. And then other people, or other times, I will actually use like a really messy cross contour line style. So I'll kind of show you what that looks like too. But see how now already those are starting to look like they have a little bit more depth and space. I'm also going to go across. Now here, because I can tell that this kind of goes back in this space, instead of going horizontally lines, like my horizontal lines, I'm going to make them so that they're a little bit more of a diagonal going on here to kind of talk about the perspective of that space. Now I want my lines to go right up to the edge of my contour line too, just so that it looks like I didn't kind of like wimp out there. So you want to make sure your lines, for the most part, go right up to the edge of your other space. Now you can stop them if you want to, like it's totally okay to do that, but I usually try to have some that go from one edge of the contour line to the other edge of the contour line for sure. When I do these straps, you might also think about like, if you were, I don't know, like a 3D printer, or if you were a robot and you were making a scan of what these look like, how would you define this space and form? And you can't really screw it up. Like if you were going to 3D print this strap, I think that's a really interesting way to think about it. Or if you were like a robot and you were going to like try to, I don't know, like scan this thing with your robot eyes, like how would you do it? You would probably go back and forth a little bit. Now you can probably, I would kind of avoid doing the caterpillar line here, which I'm doing a little bit, but I'm thinking about, you know, what does this space look like? And how do I sort of define what that does? Okay, so now I've got this nice, so I'm going this way. I could also go the other way too if I wanted to, but it's really up to you how you want to deal with that space. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side also. I'm going to try to do this all in kind of like one long line because it seems to be easier for me than trying to kind of sketch it, you know, with like a caterpillar line. I'm going to pull that right up to the edge of that thing. Cool. Same way with the interior of these spaces here too. I'm going to go this way here. Now notice that I'm trying to describe what that interior form looks like. Sort of. I'm kind of, instead of just going like straight across, I'm thinking about like there's a little bit of a curvature that's going on here to kind of give us a little bit more shape. Now some of, you know, these are kind of also they get kind of thicker toward the bottom and thinner on the top, so I'm going to kind of keep that in mind as I go. See how now this is starting to look like it's wrapping around? Same way with up here. I'm going to make this a little bit thicker, I think, too, because this other one is a little bit on the thicker side too. Pull this down a little. Okay. Remember, because you're drawing a pair of shoes, you probably want them to sort of look like they match, but just try to get them to look as close as you can. You could also have chosen to draw on like not matching shoes, which is kind of interesting also. Cool. Okay. Now you could also decide that you want to give it a little bit more curve. So like say down here toward the bottom, I might darken this up a little bit. So I might switch from my 2B to 4B here. I'm going to darken this up on the edge here because I want it to feel a little bit heavier toward the bottom, see? And you can spread that out a little bit if you want to. Same way with on the interior of here. So instead of having it all be one like thickness or darkness of line, I'm also playing around with that a little bit, right? So it kind of starts to do that. And I might do that over here too. Okay. Sorry this takes so long. You can fast forward it if you need to, but I kind of like showing you the whole process if you can see it all, so you get a sense of how long it's going to take, and also, you know, you kind of get a sense of what I'm doing too. Okay, so I've got that part kind of sorted out. I think I'm also going to do the straps on the top. So instead of leaving them, I think I'm going to define them a little bit more. So actually, when I look at the straps of these, they also have a like a kind of a horizontal look to them. Like there's some like sort of ruching along the top of these. I don't know if that's the right word, but they are sort of elastic. So I'm going to go this direction actually with these. And it doesn't really matter the direction. You might just think about though what makes the most sense. And since I know that there's sort of already sort of a horizontalness about these going up here, I'm going to do that. But you could do them vertically too if you want to. And they're a little bit they have a little bit of a curve too. Make sure you actually look up at your object every once in a while when you're doing this, because it's really easy to just sort of go into autopilot. And so, let's see, make sure you're checking on that every once in a while. I'm gonna erase this up here a little bit more. So it starts to really look like it's going behind there. I really like having some sort of a stick eraser for small detail like this too. So you might also find that you like that. Now I can see the underside of this when I look up. So I want to make sure it looks kind of like what's going on there. This is a little bit more of a curve too than what I have. Okay, and the same way with this one. And actually that kind of goes up over the top of this too, so you could even add a little bit to the edge of that, which I'm going to do there. Cool. Okay, so now I have my heel and I have my straps figured out a little bit more. You can vary the lines a little bit too if you want to make it a little more interesting to look at. What you're going for is that you want your drawing to be interesting to look at. Like, you don't want it to just be bare basic, probably. I mean, you can, but it's really up to you what you like. I like having a little more ornateness to my drawings personally, so I always add a little bit more. Okay, and then you can also think about say the front of your shoe. Now, I'm going to do the interiors first because that seems to make the most sense to me. And I am thinking about this, like this piece of fabric as it goes around the shoe, sort of. I'm thinking about it kind of goes like this. So I'm going to actually try to emulate that a little bit more. I'm going to also sharpen my pencil. So in this space, I could go down, but I think I'm going to go this direction. So it's really up to you what you want to do. But I'm also going to think about how this line, if there was a line, it would go behind the front portion of this shoe here. So you see how that goes sort of behind there? Same way with this portion here, it kind of goes this direction, I would say. And the same way with this one, I'm going to do the same thing because they're a pair here. So I'm going to do that too. But I'm going to think about, I don't want to like curve it too much. I want to think about how if this line was going to keep going on this shoe section here, like it would just keep going behind there. So I actually have to stand up to get this right. Like if I was going to keep going with that, how would it go? And pull it right up to the edge of your, say the front of your shoe portion there. You don't want to just stop. Like, you don't want to just do that because that looks awkward. You want to make sure it goes like sort of behind there. And if you need to, you can tighten this top line up a little bit more, right? Cool, okay. You could also, let's see, do the front portion of your shoe if you want to. I always like doing the back, kind of like this back section here, just a little bit, and then I like to stop it usually. So I'll make it pretty dark on this side, and maybe about halfway, because I know that the light's going to be hitting this side. I'm only going to go so far with it. I can always thicken up these or darken them, or even you could have a broken line too, like if you wanted to play around with that a little bit. But this starts to give this space a little bit more shape, and it makes my shoes look less flat than they would if they just were contour line. So I really like kind of broken line to describe spaces like this. So you don't have to go all the way if you don't want to, but you could if you want. I kind of like maybe adding a little bit more. I'm thinking about how if I was going to describe the front of this, what would it look like? And yours probably would look different than mine too, so you can kind of keep that in mind. I also know that the edge of this curves up a little bit along the top of my shoe, so I'm going to go take those lines all the way out to the edge, and maybe even think about them going around like that. I probably will do that with this side too. As it's closer to the edge on the left-hand side, because it's darker, I would also make my line a little darker over there too. See how these are darker? And these are a little bit darker to the left than they are as they get to the right-hand side. I should probably sharpen it again. See, my line's getting thicker as I go along. Pull that all the way out to the edge there. So now I have a pretty nice sense of what's going on there. I might even pull this line out a little bit further, or have it wrap around from the other side a little bit. You can if you want to. It's really up to you how you want to deal with that. I kind of like the idea of it sort of wrapping around from the opposite side. Make sure if you do that though that you erase things if they kind of come out over the edge of your contour line. You want to make sure that it's really this is really slick along the edge there. Cool. Okay, so you have that going. I might also do some cross contour line along the edge of this up here. I think I'm going to leave it. I think it's looking pretty good. Okay, so now I have it about 50%. I also think that the kind of the label on my shoe, so this like kind of square, I think I'm going to darken that up too. So I'm not going to shade it, but I am going to sharpen this up a little bit. And now these are a little bit in perspective too, so I had to think about what does that perspective look like, you know, in that space. So you'll notice that they're not like a square. I don't think about them as a square, you know, like this, right? Like it's not horizontal this way or vertical this way. They're at an angle a little bit, so I want to put that in there. And I think I'm going to make these go vertical. I'm going to make sure that they feel like they are behind all, like the strap there. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. I did this because I want these to stand out a little bit. Like I think it's kind of an interesting design section, and so I have that there. I could also, there's kind of this line that goes along the foot here, but I think I'm gonna leave that the way that it is because I sort of like that it's a lighter line, and in fact I think I might even pull it down to the onto the bottom of the shoe here, sort of, so it gives a little more shape. Cool. Make sure that goes over that. Okay, so you have some contour line, some cross contour line, a range of line weight, and if you wanted to, you could even start to work into some cross hatching, and so you might, let's see, you have some spaces to maybe clean up too, like if you got little details like this, you might want to clean those up a little bit. I actually have this line that goes down along the edge of my shoe here. So if you have details, now is the time to add them. I also like to think about my drawing as, you know, you want to work from more general to specific. And so, you know, it's kind of like you don't want to put the details in before you get too far, because if you do all the detail work and then you you do it early and then you know, say you screw something up, you don't want to have to go back and redo it, basically. So make sure, you know, make sure you get your main components in first before you do the detailing. And actually it's really hard, that's a really hard concept, because we always want to do the fun part first, and that's usually the detail part, right? So anyway, now you kind of got that in order. I also decided, I think I'm going to do some cross hatching across these squares that are here, just to give it a little more oomph. And so I'm going to make sure that these are sort of in line, and I'm being like really particular about this, and making these, you know, really, this is a really tight drawing, I would say, like, in that it is really rendered very slowly with slow, careful line, as opposed to a really gestural line, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Well, that looks pretty cool. And then I'm going to also do that with this side. Now you could use, say, like if you're really analytical or something, you could use a ruler or something like this, but I just like to eyeball it. I don't think there's enough time to sit around and do that unless that's what you really want to do, and that's a style choice that you've sort of decided to make. I'm going to sharpen this a little bit, but it's really up to you how you want to do that. I'm going to make sure that goes all the way up to the edge, and that this looks really tight, because these are manufactured objects too. They're not like necessarily an organic object, even though they have an organic shape to them. So I'm going to tighten up some of those edges a little bit more. Okay, so now we're looking pretty good. You might want to clean up some of your edges too, if you have them, like little fuzzy lines or anything like that. If you need to make things a little bit more specific, you can do that now. But yeah, so you have your few different things going on there. You got your line weight, your contour line, some cross contour line, and even some start of what's called cross hatching, which is up here. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later in our next video.